Hello everyone, welcome to the Microsoft Fabric Practical Implementation Series. This is our fifth video where we demonstrate an end-to-end scenario using Microsoft Fabric to guide the launch of a new business. I'm Easy E of Murdoch Martin Consulting, where we make cloud technology easy. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Fabric, the data engineering experience is where you will design, build, and operate systems for managing large volumes of data. In this second part of Ingesting Data video, we will work with data stored in a non-standard format, specifically an old version of Excel. We'll transform the data into both Parquet and CSV formats. Check out the GitHub repository in the link below for code samples used in this video series. And don't forget to subscribe as I publish a new video each week. We'll jump quickly into the demonstration as this is the second part of the Ingesting Data video series. In the first part of the video, we used a pipeline to copy the data using a binary format into our lakehouse. Now we need to transform the data. The easiest way to do this is with a notebook and to use Pandas. So let's begin by logging in as a data engineer. The pipeline we created in the first part of the video completed step 1, copying the data from an external site and storing it in the lakehouse. Now let's use a notebook to create a Parquet and CSV file from each of the Excel files. This work will show us a number of different features that are important for importing the survey file, which is in the older version of Excel, and having that reformatted and stored in a CSV and Parquet files. The first thing we're going to do is receive the parameters from our overall pipeline. And the strategy that we're using in this notebook is to minimize the number of parameters that we're passing. So to receive the parameters, we've taken this cell and making it a parameter cell. This is where we toggle the parameter cell. So these are our objectives, is to promote this notebook from dev to test to production. The name of the lakehouse is going to be consistent through those different environments. But the actual ID of those workspaces, the ABSF path, will be changing. So one of the things that we want to do is to be able to identify this path, which we need to be able to read things into Pandas from the name. So what we're going to be using is the notebook utilities, the MSSparkUtils, to be able to do that. So we import this here, and I put in here just the help pieces here just so you can see an example of the different things that we can do with the Spark utilities. We'll use the MSSparkUtils lakehouse.list to be able to see the various lakehouses that are in this environment. But I want to get just one lakehouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the lakehouse get, and I'm going to specify the raw lakehouse name, which is the variable that I set up above, to be able to pull in the actual path. And here you can see the raw lakehouse.absf path is brought in here. So this gives me the path that I need to be able to read the file into Pandas. As I read the Excel file into Pandas, I'm going to create the variable file with path that appends the raw lakehouse path as with the files, the directory, to get the name of the actual file that I'm going to be importing. When I try the import, what you'll see is this will fail the first time. And the reason for this is, and let's go down into the error and look at this a little bit closer. xlrd is the module that is needed to read this old version of Excel. Reading Excel with the current Microsoft versions is included with no additional modifications. But in order for us to read these old versions, we're going to need to install the xlrd module. So the xlrd module can be installed by the administrator at the environment level, or you can do what I'm doing here, which is installing it within an individual notebook. Once that is completed, now when I try the same command, this time when I try and read this, it will read the file successfully. However, when we start looking at the data, we see the problems that we mentioned earlier with I've got unnamed columns. The first few columns have got bad data. So What we're going to do is focus now on the solution highlights around how we're going to address the challenges in the import. So the xlrd, we've installed that at the notebook level. We're going to use a skip rows option to skip the first 9 rows of data. I'm going to use the use cols option to filter out only for the monthly figures. Those are in columns A through I. I'm going to use special column headings. So I'm going to use header equals none. And I'm going to specify the column names using the names option. And data types, I'm going to use the dtype option. And dates are initially read in as strings. And so I'm going to use the Pandas toDate function to convert those into date formats. And then the last thing I'll do is combine the data from the various tabs. So this is what our cell looks like. I'm doing a little bit of manipulation on creating parsing out the year from the file name, and I'm also creating a date variable based upon the date that I have in the file, because I want this column, this date column, to exist across all of the records in this file so that I can combine the multiple files together at some point. So when I'm doing the read Excel, I'm going to do skip rows 9. I'm going to use columns A through I. Here's the header and specifying the names I'm going to use, the types, and then here I'm adding that date column to that. And our last step is we're going to merge the 2 data frames together, and then we're going to write the output to Parquet, and I'm also going to write the file out to CSV. I want to show you just what those different files look like as we have output them. So here's the data that we've just created. If I go to the CSV directory into this particular file, when I click on this, this shows us the CSV that we created, complete with our column names that we specified and the reformatted data, bringing together both the units and the value together in one row for each GeoID. When I look at the Parquet, there's a lot of advantages for using the Parquet files, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But one of the things to note with the Parquet files is you're not able to preview those directly from the lakehouse. In the previous video, we used a pipeline to copy the data in binary format from an external website using HTTP. In this video, we installed the xlrd module to be able to import older versions of Excel files. We used MSSparkUtils for getting information about the lakehouses in our environment, and we used Panda to read Excel, including many options for skipping rows, including specific columns and creating custom column names. Stay tuned for the next episode where I continue the role of a data engineer. In the upcoming videos, we will write data in Delta Lake format to the curated or silver layer of the lakehouse. We'll begin to use Data Wrangler and SQL to gain a better understanding of our data and the kinds of data validation checks that we may need.